Hello, today I'll be refuting against nuclear fusion energy, and my proposition is there is no certainty that nuclear fusion reaction will ever be commercially viable. To give you a little bit of background, so far we have produced uncontrolled fusion reaction to make hydrogen bombs, and the difference is we need to control this in order to make it an energy source. So we have all the energy going on that are uncontrolled, and if we are able to control this now, we will have the best possible energy source. So here are 3 of my supporting claims. Building a nuclear fusion reactor is very expensive today. Second claim is there is no certainty that the nuclear fusion reaction will ever be commercially viable. And the third one is risk of accidents. So to go back to my first supporting claim, it requires almost as much as energy to create nuclear fusion as it creates. To fuse 2 atoms together, high levels of heat are required. In order to create this heat, a large energy investment must be made. This means that the reaction from nuclear fusion produces just barely more than is required to make it. So with our current technology, it is not really a plausible energy creation method. Mark Jacobson from APEC, SEC, said that. Another reason is its practical energy returns are still quite unreachable. Existing methods for artificially igniting nuclear fusion still require large amounts of energy input, even on a small scale for a brief moment. Besides the fact that nuclear fusion reaction requires the fulfillment of several extreme conditions, the price paid for the technology is very high. Nuclear fusion is only tested today in experimental reactors, and even these experimental projects require huge amounts of money, says Crystal Ayres from Connect US. Now, going to my second supporting claim. Yes, there is no certainty that the nuclear fusion reaction will be commercially viable. It will take another years of research to explore it on a commercial scale. Now, there are several extreme conditions required to perform the nuclear fusion reaction, which are very hard to achieve here on the planet. Actually, we need to replicate in safe conditions the nuclear fusion reaction that is powering the sun reaching the same extreme temperatures. Only time can answer the question if nuclear fusion will ever be commercially viable. And another point is, currently it is still unproven. It seems that we need to wait more than 3 decades till the middle century, around 2050, to see nuclear fusion as a mass producer of energy. Even as scientists that take a step towards their holy grail, it becomes even more clear that we don't know what we don't know. Danny Avi from AEN News. And my last supporting claim is risk of accidents. Accidents can happen. The radioactive waste can possess a threat to the environment and is dangerous for humans. We all remember the Chernobyl accident, where the harmful effects of nuclear radiation on humans can be witnessed today. Estimates conclude that somewhere between 1,500 and 30,000 people lost their lives in the Chernobyl aftermath, and more than 2.5 million Ukrainians are still struggling with health problems related to nuclear waste. Matthias Amos from Energy Informative. And the last point for the risk of accidents is that it produces radioactive waste. Both nuclear fission and nuclear fusion release large quantities of energy which can be converted into heat and electricity. Nuclear fusion does produce radioactive waste. However, in contrast to fission produces less waste, they are short-lived and decay to background levels in a very short time, but still do release radioactive waste. An article about nuclear fusion by Rad Waste. So, going back to the proposition how nuclear fusion cannot still be a commercially viable energy source, it is important to remember that there is no perfect energy source, and each of the available power resources in the world has its pros and cons. So we should weigh them down to know if our chosen energy source would be good than bad for our society. Thank you.
All right, David, you basically present a counterclaim without any reference to what the advocate's claim is. I didn't hear any explanation of what is problematic with their evidence or reasoning. I don't even know what their secondary claims are. I just am getting the talking points on the opposing position. You do a good job developing those talking points, and it's clearly outlined what the secondary claims are there, so that part's easy to follow. The thing that is a little bit confusing is that you did exactly the opposite of what I told you guys to do with the evidence. You're giving us the citation afterwards, and I can't tell what is the quote and what is the claim. It's running together here. You need to kind of reverse that, put the source citation first, then give us the quote so we know that this is what's going on. Otherwise, I'm sitting here going, well, this is his claim, this is his claim, this is his claim, and then at the end you give me a name and I go, well, wait a second, which part is your inference and which part is what they are saying about that particular issue? And that happened the whole way through the presentation. The secondary claims that you described, I think, are pretty good. You did a good job talking about what the potential doubt is about developing this in the long run, that it might be potentially unfeasible. You gave us a timeline 3 decades in the future on the second point at best. I don't remember what the advocate's argument was. It seemed to me like they were talking about a much shorter time period, but I don't have any comparison here because you didn't tell us what the argument was that you were responding to. So, if I have a good memory and I could remember what was going on, I'd say, oh, okay, well, they said 10 years and you're saying 30 years at best. That's a reason to suggest that maybe they are wrong if that's what their claim was. But again, I don't know exactly what their claim is. I just have the general response that you're giving on this issue. So that's a little bit problematic. If I went back to their argument, and again, I don't know exactly what all the points were, but they might have had answers to some of these points in the argument that haven't been discussed here. You're basically giving us the talking points for the opposing side, which does not address the arguments being made by by the advocate. And that's, I think, a little bit problematic. But like I said, you did a nice job presenting those points.